Mr. Caramandi, tell us, why or how did you get the nickname Nick the Crow? It means shrewd bird. Who gave you that name? This fella from the neighborhood. He wasn't so shrewd. He must have known you pretty good. Probably. And how would you get these individuals, the drug dealers, bookmakers, loan sharks, to give you a piece of their profits? Well, we would threaten them with bodily harm or death if they didn't pay. Mr. Caramandi, when you were growing up, did you learn the 10 Commandments? Yes, I did. Did you learn thou shalt not steal? Yes, I did. Thou shalt not kill? Sure. Yeah. How about thou shalt not lie? Yes. The 3 commandments I just mentioned, how many of them did you break? I broke them all. John Calabrese was a high-profile loan shark and drug dealer. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was his belief that he could ignore the little guy who was now running the mob from Atlantic City. It's really not that fucking complicated. They wanted a piece of him. He didn't want to give these guys nothing. So they killed him. The hit was set up by Joseph Chicky Ciancaglini, one of 4 new capos appointed shortly after Scarfo took over the organization. The others were Scarfo's nephew, Philip Leonetti, Phil Testa's son, Salvatore, and Chucky Merlino's brother, Lawrence. Together with Scarfo and his new underboss, Chucky Merlino, they formed the nucleus of the bloody criminal organization that was poised to unleash a reign of terror on the Philadelphia underworld. Calabrese got his shortly after having dinner with Ciancaglini in Coos, Little Italy, the same South Philadelphia restaurant where Angelo Bruno dined on the night of his death. Ciancaglini was walking Calabrese to his car when 2 men approached from behind and opened fire. The gunmen, Tommy Del Giorno and Francis Fafi Inorella, were members of Ciancaglini's crew and were on their way up the organizational ladder. Both were highly ambitious, and murder was the quickest way for advancement in the Scarfo mob. Tommy and Fafi were waiting down the street. Chicky walked him out and Tommy and Fafi banged him. Pat the Cat was the getaway driver. After that, they all got made. Tony Meats, Anthony Ferrenti, got made too. But I don't know what the fuck he did to deserve it. John Calabrese was gunned down on October 6th, 1981. He died of 2 gunshot wounds to the head, 3 to the chest. The police report of the shooting said that 2 gunmen wearing ski masks and gloves approached him from behind and opened fire. Police found 2 pistols, the ski masks, and the gloves in a gutter. The cold-blooded public execution fit the pattern that was beginning to take hold now that Scarfo was in charge. 5 months earlier, on May 27th, leader of the Greek Mafia, Chelsea Stevie Boris, was killed in similar fashion. And shortly after that, Frankie Flowers de Alfonso was brutally beaten when he too refused to pay Scarfo's new street tax. The laissez-faire era of Angelo Bruno was over. It was no longer live and let live. Nicky Scarfo was now in charge, and Scarfo wanted a piece of everyone's action. During this time, I'm still with Mickey Diamond, but I wasn't making any money, and I was getting fucking disgusted. I am burnt out in the fucking city with the gold and the other scams I was running. I'm going nowhere real fucking fast. I'm going down to the racetracks. I'm friendly with Pat the Cat's Burrito, and I start getting friendly with Charlie White, Chelsea and H. Pat the Cat came out of Trenton. He moved to Philadelphia and went to work for Ciancaglini. He did some bookmaking and had some loan shark money on the street. He was just an associate until the Calabrese hit. Then he got made. See, Pat was an earner, not a hitter. Turns out, this motherfucker had long-distance plans. He knew already, a whole year in advance. He wanted me, Charlie White, and my partner Junior Stenio with him. That's all he wanted. He just wanted to be left the fuck alone with Ciancaglini as his capo. As an earner, not a fucking hitter. Yeah, Pat used to tell me shit. Yeah, he'd ask me if I'm happy, if I'm making any money. We used to go to dinner sometimes at Paco's place around 10th and Tasca. So I'd say to him, I'll put it this way. I owe this guy Paco 31 grand. I'm giving him 605 a week interest. So no, I ain't making no fucking money. Pat tells me to be patient. He says things are gonna be different. See, the order was out to kill Mickey Diamond. In fact, I was in the way twice when they were trying to kill him. Later, I find out that Nick Scarfo had said the next time, if anybody's with him, they go too. Fucking cocksucker. The Mickey Diamond contract was an example of the sinister, almost diabolical way Scarfo's mind worked. He put the contract out on Dominic Mickey Diamond DeVito for reasons that perhaps only he fully understood. Mickey Diamond had certainly angered enough people. He was constantly trying to get over on someone, welching on debts, finagling his way into and out of deals. Even Caramandi was growing tired of his mob mentor. But Scarfo's animosity went back further, almost 20 years to their early days in South Philadelphia, and Mickey Diamond's friendship with the hated Joe the Boss Ragnetta, the old consigliere who wanted Scarfo dead, and to the dispute with Angelo Bruno over Chucky Merlino's improper advances towards the niece of two respected old-line Bruno mob figures, the brothers, Mark and Funzie Marconi. So, in the early 60s, Scarfo was hanging out with Chucky Merlino. He was older than Chucky by about 10 years, but they'd hang out together. Chucky wasn't a made member then, but he was involved with Nicky in a couple of things. Now, there were these two brothers, the Marconis, Alphonse and Garino Marconi. These guys were old school. They were Calabrese. And Chucky, this motherfucker, was fucking around with their niece, their sister's daughter. This shit was something you just did not fucking do. So they wanted Chucky killed. They went to Joe the Boss Ragnetta and had a sit down. With these two brothers, everything was to the letter. They knew this shit inside out, upside down, right side left. But who comes to bat for Chucky? Scarfo. It was a big fucking thing at the time. Scarfo represented Chucky, and Mickey Diamond spoke for these two brothers. Well, Scarfo saves Chucky's fucking life. He doesn't get killed. And although Chucky denied it up and down, these two brothers knew he was fucking around with the niece. It was something everybody remembered. I think from that point on, Scarfo never liked Mickey Diamond. When Scarfo decided DeVito had to go, he gave the assignment to the very same two brothers whom Mickey Diamond had stood up for in the dispute with Merlino and Scarfo nearly 2 decades earlier. Like some feudal lord, Scarfo was testing the Marconi brothers. Would they be loyal to the Mafia code and blindly follow the orders of their new boss? Or would they balk and warn Mickey Diamond, one of their oldest friends? Either way, Scarfo figured himself a winner. If they warned Diamond, then they would become targets as well. And instead of 1 contract, he could put out 3 and be rid of all of them. It was a spite thing for him. This just goes to show you how vengeful he can be, how bitter he can get. Caramandi's past performance as an earner for the mob was the one thing he had going for him during this period of upheaval. And when Scarfo, whose lust for power was matched only by his insatiable greed, took over the organization in March of 1981, he recognized that the Crow could be a valuable asset. Scarfo knew Caramandi. He trusted him. Then I started having problems with Chicken Narducci. Caramandi was a heavy gambler at Narducci's card games and owed him several $1,000s, always a source of friction within the underworld. But their problems ran deeper than that. Narducci was not a big fan of Caramandi's hustle. In fact, several years earlier, he had gone after the Crow in a dispute over one of Caramandi's scams. In addition to his gold and his $1,000 bill routine, Caramandi had become a master of selling a $5,000 3-carat diamond ring. The hustle worked like this. Caramandi would offer the ring to a sucker at a good price. He'd even let the mark take the ring to a jeweler to have it appraised. After the appraisal, there would be more haggling over price. During these negotiations, Caramandi would replace the real diamond ring with a fake that was identical in size, shape, and design. He had dozens of them made up. It's one of my biggest cons. I must have sold this ring 200 times. On one occasion, however, he sold the diamond to a South Philadelphia restaurant owner who was a friend of both Narducci and Angelo Bruno. Most of Caramandi's victims couldn't or wouldn't bring legal action against him. But the Crow knew that Bruno was a higher court of appeal, whose decision he would have to abide by. So, one day Chicky Narducci comes around the Inn Street Cafe. He hands me the ring. The phony one. He says to me, "Give me the fucking money." So I say, "I don't got it." "Well, you better get it." So Mickey Diamond intervenes and tells him, "Listen, Chicky, you gotta do the right thing here. You gotta go through the proper channels." Mickey was a soldier and so was Narducci. So they get in touch with Angelo Bruno and Tony Bananas. We straightened everything out. I gave the guy back his fucking money. Anyway, I had a lot of problems with Chicky. He used to have a Zigonet game. It's this Italian card game. And before I went into the can, I owed him some money. I used to borrow big off of this guy. 10 grand, 15 grand at a time. This is back in 74 when I was rolling high with the fucking counterfeiting. Most of my money went into gambling. And sometimes I used to go to his Zigonet games. Then one weekend, I lost. I lost big. 50K. So, I had a history of these problems with Narducci. But I was on good terms with Scarfo. He liked me. And I liked him. I think that helped me. It didn't fucking hurt. You know, I was always known to be a hustler, a good earner, and I had a real good rapport with Scarfo. Then Phil Testa went and got himself all blown up, and now Nicky is boss. So I'm in and out at this time, hustling like a fucking maniac. Not making any real money. Playing poker at Paco's place, living off some loan shark money we still had out there. We started with 50,000 and had maybe 140 on the street in 18 months. It took time to collect all that fucking money after Tony went. And we paid back the 50. Then one day I'm sitting in a car with this guy. We're getting ready to go to the racetrack. It's about noon. Who comes around? Mickey. His cocksucker pulls over and jumps in the car. So I says to him, "Hey, Mick, I'm going down to the track, I got a couple hundred on me. I'm gonna take a shot, right? I mean, with the fucking luck I'm having, why the fuck not?" He was down with me at the track the day before. This motherfucker was becoming a nuisance. He wouldn't leave me the fuck alone, called me 50 fucking times a day, wanting to know what I was doing, where I was at. Man, the fucking party was over. Tony wasn't around no more. He was dead. A new fucking broom sweeps clean. You dig? Now, Mickey had a car wash at 26 in Passyunk. He wasn't doing so great. So he says to me, "I gotta meet somebody. I'll see you later. Maybe tonight." He jumped out of the car and that was it. Now, I come back from the track that night. I fucking won. So I meet with this girl and I take her to Dante and Luigi's for dinner. We're fucking celebrating. Chucky Merlino's in there, ready to leave. So he sees me. He comes over and he says to me, "Hey, Nicky, tell Mickey I said hello." So, knowing Chucky over the years, I knew that fucking remark meant something. So I says to him, "What do you mean by that, Chucky? I mean, explain that. What do you mean?" "Whoa, hold up. Calm the fuck down, Nick. Just tell him I said hello." So, we go home later that night, about 8:30, 9. Mickey's girlfriend, she calls me. "Nick, have you heard from Mickey?" I tell her no, but I'd seen him earlier in the day. I'm figuring he's with this other broad he used to fool with. He had a few broads he was fooling with. So the next day, which was a Friday night, we go to Paco's. Pat and Charlie had told me to meet them there. Listen to me. Your fucking problems are over, my friend. This fucking guy, he's dead. They just haven't found his body yet. Then Pat tells me I'm gonna be with him from now on. He says we're gonna start shaking down bookmakers and anybody else doing anything illegal. He had already told Ciancolini about it. It was gonna be me, Charlie White, and my partner, Junior Stanio, and Pat. Pat says to me, if Junior don't want to do it, you better tell him to get the fuck out of town, 'cause he can't stay here. Dominic DeVito's body was found on the afternoon of February 25th, 1982, in the trunk of his own car, parked at 9th and Bainbridge Streets in South Philadelphia. His hands and feet had been tied behind him. His body had been placed in plastic trash bags, secured with twine. He had been shot in the head, and the weapon of choice was a .38 caliber handgun. A police report noted that DeVito, a heavy gambler who was frequently in debt, had been reported missing the day before by his girlfriend. The woman told police she last saw DeVito on the afternoon of February 22nd. No one has ever been charged with the DeVito murder, but few people spent much time mourning Mickey Diamond's death. I had to collect. the loan shark money that was on the street. I got the books from his girlfriend. And all the fucking money we collected went to them guys. To Scarfo direct. We got nothing. Mickey's girl, she didn't even have money to fucking bury him. So they gave me $6 grand to gift to her. Dominic DeVito hadn't been buried a week when Pat the Cat Spirito set up headquarters in a clubhouse on Bancroft Street in South Philadelphia. He brought Caramandi, Ianich, and Stanio in as his associates, eventually elevating their status to proposed members. Working in a crew under Joseph Chicky Ciancaglini, Caramandi became part of what would soon be called the Bomb Squad, a group of mobsters who began the systematic shakedown and extortion of the non-affiliated segments of the Philadelphia underworld. Scarfo wanted to impose a street tax on bookmakers, loan sharks, and drug dealers operating outside the organization. This was in marked contrast to the way Bruno had conducted business. Bruno preferred alliances brought about by mutual needs and influence. He wanted bookmakers and loan sharks to know that they could come to him for assistance, financial or otherwise. Maybe they needed to edge off some heavy betting. Maybe they had a scam going that had gotten too big to handle. Maybe they had the inside track on a lucrative construction contract and needed a silent partner to help finance the deal. They would go to Bruno or one of his people because they knew he would be fair, that he would share the deal, and that when it was over, everyone could go back about his business until something else came along. Scarfo changed those rules. In many ways, he was the underworld reflection of the pinstriped outlaws who were terrorizing Wall Street at the same time. Both seemed to subscribe to the same philosophy. Greed is good. Get it all. Get it now. Take no prisoners. Caramandi adapted perfectly to the new approach. After more than a year of looking over his shoulder, he again felt secure about his mob connections. He survived the bloodletting that had left a dozen more highly regarded mob figures dead. Now, he was a step closer to the inner circle. He was a proposed member, in good standing. His past association with Tony Bananas Caponegro, a possible sore point had Philtesta remained in power, was no longer a problem. Scarfo knew Caramandi long before he hooked up with Tony Bananas. He appreciated his ability as an earner. Now, the Crow was out on the street every day, further proving his worth to the organization. This time, he had some status. More important, he had steady income. And as an added bonus, Pat the Cat Spirito told Caramandi he could forget about the $31,000 he owed Paco. Other people might be impressed or frightened by the wanton and ruthless violence of the mob, but to Caramandi, the awesome power of the organization showed up on the bottom line. To be able to arbitrarily wipe out a loan sharking debt. Now that was power. Caramandi, who had spent his whole life hustling for a buck, who always spent more than he earned, then borrowed more than he could pay, was intoxicated by the strength of those around him. More than ever, he wanted to be one of them. So, the day after they find Mickey's body, I go over to Junior's house and I tell him, this is the story. I tell him we're gonna be with Pat. We're gonna start shaking down number writers, bookmakers, drug dealers, whatever, whoever. I tell him it's gonna be him and me and Charlie White. Now, I didn't know Charlie White all that well. He was a bookmaker. I knew him over the years, but we were never close. Now, Junior, this rat fuck, is scared shitless. He's fucking paranoid. So I say to him, Jay, you ain't got a fucking choice. What are you gonna do, huh? Look, let's just go over there and talk to them. Alright? Just talk. But at the end of the fucking night, just remember, you don't got a fucking choice. So, me and Junior get in the car and head over to 1838 Bancroft. That's our new spot. Pat lays it out for Junior in the same way he told it to me. It's the four of us. Now, Pat says he's waiting for the okay from Ciancaglini. But he says we're gonna start a poker game in here. We're gonna remodel the place. He says to me, you guys ain't got nothing to worry about. Nobody's gonna bother you. Fuck with you. You're with me now. A couple of days later, Pat gets the okay from Ciancaglini that we can start shaking down those fucking drug dealers. Now we start. Man, oh fucking man. We went after those motherfuckers. We shook them the fuck down and roughed them the fuck up. Bookmakers, loan sharks, anybody we could fucking reach. We were fucking terrors. Fucking animals. We'd go out and tell people, you don't pay? Either you get the fuck out of business, or we're gonna kill you. I mean, there was no fucking bullshit. We were bringing guys back to Bancroft Street. 3, 4, 5 at a fucking time. We had bird dogs. Guys who would tip us off, tell us who was dealing drugs or who was writing numbers. They'd point the guys out to us, and we'd go get them. We had control of all of the fucking shakedowns. We shook down everybody. In the beginning, in the fucking beginning, we must have had 60, 70 guys that were paying anywhere from 100 to 300 a week. We were getting packages off of guys, 25 large, for past performances. Ain't that some shit? We had a guy named Johnny giving us 300 a week. Another guy, Big Lou, 300 a week from him. We had this guy named Slim, He had a bar and restaurant. He was big in numbers and loan shark. We got 10,000 up front from this motherfucker. Another 300 every fucking week. With so many guys, we were fucking rolling in it. After 2 months go by, we're collecting 5, 6, 7 grand a week. Pat tells us that the deal was Scarfo gets half. This is what you call the fucking elbow. And on that fucking elbow is Scarfo, Chucky Merlino, Frank Monti, Ciancaglini, Philip Leonetti, Chucky's brother Lawrence, and Salvi Testa. Every week I would take half and put it on the other side for Scarfo, and the other half I would chop up. Every day we'd work the fucking shakedowns. Then we started this poker game in here. It would start on a Friday and maybe last till Monday. Over a weekend we could cut up 8, 10, 12 grand. There was a $20 or $40 limit. Sometimes we'd have no fucking limit. We used to take 5% from the pot. I was making $1,200, $1,500 a fucking week between the cuts from the shakedowns plus the fucking poker game. Meanwhile, police continued stumbling over the bodies of mobsters and mob associates. Less than a month after the DeVito murder, law enforcement authorities made another grisly discovery in South Philadelphia. Rocco Marinucci's body turned up in a parking lot in the 1500 block of South 8th Street. Marinucci was the 30-year-old South Philadelphia pizza shop owner who set off the bomb that killed Phil Testa. And although police had questioned him about the Testa contract, they were never able to gather enough evidence to link him to the bombing. Now, it didn't matter. The timing and circumstances surrounding his death confirmed his involvement. Marinucci had been shot repeatedly in the head and chest. His hands were tied in front of his body with a clothesline. The first police officers on the scene also noticed that Marinucci's cheeks were puffed out. This turned out to be a message from his killer. Stuffed inside Marinucci's mouth were 3 large unexploded firecrackers. The date was March 15th, 1982, the first anniversary of the bomb blast that had killed Phil Testa. Salvatore Salvi Testa had struck again.